Hello and welcome to our live sleep chat. I am Marta Carlo. I am the founder of the International Parenting and Health Institute, holistic coach, education, advanced training for holistic professionals. And I'm here with Soda Kushkowski, who is our integrative adult sleep coach instructor. And she is also the founder of Start With Sleep. You can visit both of our websites, startwithsleep.com for Soda and our website, parentinghealthinstitute.com. Today, we are happy to join all of you to discuss a very hot topic this summer. And some of you may know this, and many of you may not, that there is something known as summer insomnia. And you may start having some symptoms. You may start waking up and thinking to yourself, oh no, I have insomnia. And you may be categorizing this insomnia as a general insomnia. You may be becoming a bit scared or afraid that now this is going to become an issue. However, what Soda and I are going to do today is we're going to shine the light on this. We're going to share with you that there's actually 3 types of insomnia, and we're going to share what those are. And then we're going to talk specifically about summer insomnia and what you can practically and effectively do to prevent or minimize it if you're experiencing it already. All right, Soda. So how about we begin first with just talking about insomnia in general, because I know that some of our audience may not know that there are different categories of insomnia. It's not something that can be chronic. You can have what's known as a transient or short term. It doesn't have to be long-term thing. It doesn't have to be also so overly involved. And why don't we start there?
Well, just to start off, to define insomnia, right? So trouble falling asleep, staying asleep, waking up too early, waking up feeling unrefreshed. Are we getting a little backbeat? Feel a little echo.
Okay, on mine I'm not.
Let me see here what's going on.
Sure.
Okay, well, the definition of insomnia, we do have different variations. So, of course, the 3, as you spoke about, the transient, which is that kind of that seasonal, which we're going to talk about today, because there's upwards of 19 different types of insomnia variations. This past few years, coronasomnia was defined, right? Because it was induced by the stress and anxiety around, the period of time. So when it comes to our insomnia, we can suffer from these short bouts, right? Where we have these transitory things that happen in our life. Just like children learning how to walk, sit up, talk, we have different things that happen in our lives. So whether we are changing jobs, so forth, and the seasons is a big part of that as well, right? So in the summertime, we have temperature fluctuations, which can really cause havoc on our sleep. Plus, we tend to kind of go outside the normal schedule. So we're kind of pushing the boundaries on things. So hopefully today we're going to get into what are some of the things that you can do to kind of help mitigate some of the things that happen with our sleep during the summertime.
Exactly. Thank you. And thank you for defining insomnia altogether. And just like Soda was sharing, when you're going through different phases of your life, whether they're developmental, whether they're situational, it doesn't have to mean it's a long-term thing. And so transient, technically, if you were to look it up, means anything that's about a month or under, where that's that month or under period of time you're undergoing sleep issues. Then we have a short-term insomnia, which is usually anywhere from 1 to 6 months where you're going through these issues. And then anything that's 6 months plus would be considered more of a chronic insomnia, right? More of a longer term. So why don't we first start talking about, why is there a summer insomnia? What are some of the factors that are involved that lead us to waking up a lot at night during the summertime, during the summer months?
I think the first time is that we tend to not be as consistent with our schedule. With the summer hours, especially with children, they don't have to be up as early. Even if they're at camp, the hours tend to be a little bit later. Like my daughter started her today at 9 o'clock, a little bit later than usual. We're pushing that bedtime because we are partaking in evening activities. We're changing the times that we eat our meals, right? So while consistency is really important, one of the things that I like to do for myself and for my family during the summer is kind of move that schedule, right? So we want to keep a consistency in our meal times and in our exercise, but we have much longer days, right? So it's going to be much harder to get at night. So really figuring out a pattern. If you know that we're going to be pushing bedtime, like my daughter has a later summer bedtime versus the winter and the fall, right? Kind of falling into that pattern, so it makes it much easier. And then really looking at things like the environment are really important, right? And that's, I think, a lot of what our conversation is going to be today is on that thermoregulation and how temperature affects our sleep patterns.
Yes, temperature, light. So let's get into that because there's actually two parts to this that I would love to focus on. The first one is the environment, talking about our outer environment, obviously the light, the sunshine, the room, the sanctuary, which we're going to talk about. But then there's our inner environment because in the summertime we are also not so conscious. Oh, now I'm getting an echo. Hold on a sec. I think it's weird. All right, now it's not. Then we also tend to, just like what you were mentioning with the scheduling, we tend to let go a little bit about, not being so aware of how much we're hydrating. So if you're dehydrated more, that can attribute to it. Also, if you're continuously eating foods that are dehydrating or foods that are, again, overstimulated, going to a lot of barbecues, parties, and so on. So that's what we'll do right now. We're going to talk a little bit about the outer environment and how you can also prepare for a sleep sanctuary. And then we'll transition right into our inner environment and what you can do to still have fun this summer, because we're not saying not to go to those barbecues or parties or things like that, but we do want to have that consistency. So let's begin with the outer environment. Let's talk a little bit about light. How does light affect us in the summer? What can we do about it?
Well, the first is, I'm sure everyone knows of the hormone melatonin, right? There has been a lot of kind of debate about this because most people don't realize is that our body actually produces melatonin naturally, right? It's triggered by darkness and it's suppressed by light. So obviously in the summer months when we have much longer days, we're not producing melatonin as early in the evening, right? So it's much harder for us to kind of get to sleep and to maintain our sleep throughout the night. Plus we have, depending on little ones, what time they're turning in, it might still be light outside. So that's why that bedroom environment is really important, making sure that we're blocking out all that external light. So with melatonin, our body produces that when we are exposed, when we're not exposed to the sun and it's completely dark. So if we are out later in the evening, or if we're exposing ourselves to blue light or all these other light sources, right, that sends cues to our body that it's time to be awake. So we have to be very cognizant of our light regulation. Sunlight during the day, blue light is really important for regulating our 24-hour clock, but our 24-hour clock is either strengthened or disrupted by different things, light being one of the most important. So that melatonin production goes into that as well. Things like hydration, right? Making sure that you're staying hydrated, especially as the temperatures rise. Our body temperature also tends to be a little bit warmer in the summer months. If we tend to be exercising more or being more physically fit, which of course can help us with that deeper sleep, right? But if we're exercising too close to bed or we have too much physical activity before bed, that can also be disruptive to our sleep at night. And then, of course, obviously that scheduling, as we mentioned, if you're doing things a lot later at night. I know last night, obviously in the United States, it's a special holiday, it's the 4th of July. So we're watching fireworks at 10 or 11 o'clock at night, or generally, my daughter would be in bed at 8 p.m. So she's being exposed to that light. So how do we kind of offset those types of things? Obviously those are kind of one-offs. We're not necessarily doing those things every single night, but even if we're doing activities late into the evening, just being aware of that light regulation is going to really help with the ability for individuals to get to sleep and to maintain their sleep at night.
Exactly. And the key factor here is lifestyle, because if you prepare to transition to a summer lifestyle, then this is also going to make it easier to understand, okay, we have a summer lifestyle. So what do I have to take into consideration? I'm going to have maybe the barbecues, the parties, staying out a little bit later at night, and so on. And so how can I evaluate my summer lifestyle? What are the things that I can do? And so let's backtrack a little bit, because I know you went ahead a little into the hydration. We'll go right into hydration, nutrition, all of that. Let's go into the sleep sanctuary. Let's talk about how can we set up the room. So we understand the scheduling and how important that is. But then when it comes to our room environment, how can that also support us in such a way where I know at night it can get so hot and people don't realize that if you're even 1 degree above the temperature, that could disrupt your sleep. People don't realize not only your own body temperature, but the room temperature can have such a tremendous effect. So let's get into that a little bit and talk about how we can make a sleep sanctuary for the summer.
Absolutely. So, I mean, temperature is such an important thing. Now, of course, it's going to all depend on how your home is set up. You know, some people use a window air conditioning unit. Some people actually have central air. Some are using a fan. So your ability to be able to regulate that temperature in your room is going to make a big difference as well. There are kind of hacks that you can use, like, I think I heard something about using a fan and putting a bowl of ice in front of it, and that kind of makes your own kind of air conditioning unit. So really using an ice pack, or even if you have like a rice mask or a lavender one, or, you know, even like a cold pack that you can put in the freezer and apply it to the back of your neck. Things like taking a warm shower before bed, right? Because then our body temperature rises, then it naturally falls, and we need to drop that 1 or 2 degrees, our core body temperature, to help regulate our sleep at night. You know, one of the most frequent reasons people have disruptions in their sleep at night have to do with the temperature in their environment. It's either too hot or too cold. And during the summer months, obviously, we're seeing it being a lot hotter, right? Because depending on how you're setting it up, and then the breathability of a lot of the things in your bedroom. I say everything in our bedroom is a tool, from the sheets that we have, right? The breathability, do they trap heat? Your pillow, your mattress, what you're wearing on your person, right? It's better to sleep a lot lighter and have a lot less on during the summer months, even to sleep with nothing at all, right? It's a lot more comfortable, and your body's able to regulate the temperature a lot better, which is going to be conducive to getting a better night's sleep.
That's right. And that even includes the light fixtures. So how many light fixtures, can you dim them at night? Because those lights can get so hot, you don't realize in the winter they might serve you. In the summertime, they're adding to the heat that's already there. So this is even more of a reason why it's that much more important to pay attention to, like, sort of saying, what is the, you know, clothing that I'm using to go to sleep? You know, what kind of sheets am I using? My light fixtures, how hot are they? Can I dim my lights? Even your electronics. So if you happen to have a TV, computer, what are the things, the electronic things in your room that are turned on that are also producing heat in that room? And if you have a window in your room, again, depending if it's night, can you get that airflow going in? So if it's obviously overly hot, you don't want to keep that open window to get that hot air in, right? You want to keep it cool, but you do at some point want to gauge when is a good time in the day where you can have some airflow. Because what happens is when things get so hot and sticky, you also trap a lot of particles in the air. It's not just the heat and temperature. And so you want to ensure that your air quality also remains consistently clean throughout. Even getting some plants that can also help with the air is an option. But the point is start evaluating your sleep environment and start questioning, what are the things in your environment that are supportive of you, and how does it feel to be in that room, right? And then start to pay attention, what are the things that might feel like they're interfering with your sleep? Is it the temperature? Is it too much light? Is it the electronics, right? Or even the smell. Do you have incense? Maybe you're someone that uses incense. Well, that might be serving at some point, but not so close to bedtime, for example. And just different things like that. If you use an air freshener, again, being aware of those kinds of things also.
Yeah, just to the point that you made about air quality, it's something that I talk about all the time. Most people don't realize, especially at night, everything in our environment emits different types of toxins and chemicals from our mattress. That's why when people ask me, like, what's the best mattress to buy? I'm like, well, one that supports like your neck and your back, right? But one that has breathability, and most importantly, one that's organic and made from natural materials. It's most important where it was manufactured, and looking at, you know, what is the composition of the mattress. That's going to be one of the most important, because at night we see CO2 levels rising, right? Carbon dioxide. We also see these volatile organic chemicals that come off all of our furniture, our mattress, all these different things. If we sleep with the door closed, that's a bad thing. We want to sleep with the door open, right? Because we want to get that air flowing. If you were to use an air quality tester, which I do, and I measure this on a daily basis with different things, you see that a lot of those numbers rise during the evening time. That affects our ability to breathe, which in turn affects our deep sleep and our REM sleep. So that's just another contributing factor. My husband and I, right now, we kind of play round robin with the air conditioning, making sure to have that balance where when the temperature is a little bit cooler, making sure to open up those windows, because that cross ventilation is really important. We use gas stoves, again, furniture and everything in our home emits chemicals, especially if you're someone who has carpet or if you have, a pet. It's really important to make sure that you're clearing out that air because that affects our breathing patterns, which in turn affects how deeply and how well we sleep.
Exactly. And mosquito repellent and, suntan spray. I mean, no, not suntan spray. What do they call it? Sunblocker spray, all that, right? So exactly. We fill up the air with so many things during the summer we don't realize are also taking over the air. And that's one of the reasons, by the way, that back in 2010, we launched, our organization is the first to launch an eco consultant program for this very reason. We introduced it first as part of the pregnancy and postpartum journey because we were very aware of how many toxins were existing and still are existing in the products, in the environment, and how we can empower ourselves to use it. And then what our company did is we began taking this information and we integrated it into all of our programs. So in our integrative adult sleep coach program, we have a huge section on environment, and not just the normal sleep hygiene environment, but it's information that pertains to air quality and the products and the ingredients, really looking at the toxins and how those are affecting your health and your air and so on. So we're very, very passionate about that. And it's a big aspect of our work, just so that everyone who's out there may not know, oh, I didn't know that adult sleep coaches learn about greening their sleep environment as well. And we do.
Yeah, when you become a parent, you might think of something like a green nursery, right? You want to be very aware of the paint on your walls and how everything affects your baby and their developing immune system, right? But we don't think about, as adults, what are the things that affect us? And that's why we see a lot of these hormonal imbalances and fluctuations, right? Because our skin is our largest organ. Often we use products, and we've seen this in different cases that have happened with companies that make certain products that we find that they have cancer causing properties. So it's really important to read the labels or the instructions, but also when it comes to your environment, look at all of the tools. What can you remove from your bedroom? That's why with some people, there's these nightstand things now where you can charge your phone, but it blocks the EMF signals, right? So if you're someone who tends to be more sensitive to those electromagnetic fields, it's really important to just kind of by trial and error, figure out what is the best setup for you.
Exactly. And there's so much information out there, so much. And in a moment, we're going to start talking about your inner environment. But there's so much information out there that one of the first things that's going to support you through this process in transitioning into a summer lifestyle is just taking a moment to be with the environment, becoming a bit still, not trying to grasp at the answers, not trying to read all the information, but just feel your environment. When you walk into a spa, how good it feels. Did someone give you a book to learn that information? No, you knew just because that environment gave you that data. You felt it in your body, right? So it's the same thing when you're in your own sleep environment. Before jumping to conclusions or getting yourself filled up with too much info, take a moment to say, all right, or to have that inner conversation with yourself and ask yourself, how does it feel to be in here? How does it feel to breathe in here? Is it too bright? How do my eyes feel, my ears, right? So go through all that sensory process with yourself to allow the environment to speak to you. Then once you start feeling into that, yes, of course, utilize all the information that we're giving you, that you're also reading out there, that you're learning. Use that information, but don't cut yourself off from feeling your environment, because that's also key to always finding the answers much quicker, because there's so much information. You can run around in circles thinking, maybe it's this, maybe it's that, overwhelming yourself. But when you take a moment to tune in, to feel your environment, yourself in that environment, the answers start to appear a little bit easier, clearer, and much quickly.
Yeah, and look for the obvious. A lot of times people overlook things until someone brings it up to them. So for instance, if you find that you tend to be more of a hot sleeper, or that you wake up and that like you're sweating, that's a good indication that something in your environment is trapping heat. Like you might have, a higher body temperature or whatnot. That means that maybe you need to invest in some cooling sheets or something that's going to help with that. It's really important to listen to your body and listen to its needs. It will tell you what you need to know if you listen to it.
Exactly. All right. So we did the temperature. We talked about air quality, the bedroom elements like the mattress, the pillows, the sheets. sight, sound, touch, smell. Let's go a little bit into hydration, nutrition, exercise, and we can talk about napping. So we spoke a little bit earlier about hydration and the importance of that, and being very aware, especially during the summer, it gets so hot, to hydrate yourself, and not just with liquids, but noticing the foods you're eating, because food, if it's too dehydrating, can also then add to that dehydration in your body. So being aware of that as well, especially salty, if you're having a lot of salty foods as well. So let's talk about that a little bit. What are some of the, I don't know, key foods or key things in the summer that can be helpful for people?
Well, I like to reference like Ayurvedic medicine, right? It's like 5,000 years old, and it's based on what's known as like a dosha, meaning like we all fall into like a different category, but we all need to replenish our bodies seasonally with different foods. So naturally during the summer months, we tend to crave more citrusy foods, right? So those are the foods that tend to have more hydration. So things like watermelons, clementines, right? Like those types of things are the things that naturally have water and help to hydrate us without necessarily having to drink a cup of water. So that's, again, listening to yourself and figuring that out. We tend to eat, maybe more hot dogs and hamburgers and those different types of things during the summer months, but we don't want to forget our fruits and vegetables, right? Because those are the things that are going to keep us hydrated. So let's see, things, well, like in salads, things like tomatoes, right? Different types of lettuces, spinach, cabbage, different types of things. Those all are natural sources of ways to hydrate ourselves.
Exactly. So stay connected to those natural sources, because, and again, we're not saying don't go to the parties, don't do all those summer things that are fun to do, amusement parks, fairs, carnivals, concerts, right? They tend to be a little bit more in the summer than in the winter time, although in the winter we have our holidays, but still you want to just be aware so that it's in balance, right? And so you're aware, okay, maybe I drank too much or I ate too much of these kinds of salty foods. So I want to balance it the next day, and I want to ensure that I hydrate myself. I want to ensure that I'm having more fruits today, etc. So that it becomes more about a balance in your lifestyle, and it's not going from one extreme to another. It's not denying or restricting yourself, saying, I can't have this, I can't have that. One of the key things that we teach in all of our programs is that we have a mentality of not of restriction, but what can we add and what can we supplement into our lives that is going to support us. And then if we have room and time for the things that, okay, are fun, maybe are not necessary, but are just, feel good or whatever, we can add those in. But once you start shifting your mentality from not what I can't have, right? So get out of your head, I can't have this, I can't have that. It's more of, oh, what are the things that are going to support my sleep? What are the things that are going to support my lifestyle in the summer so that I can have more fun, so that I can feel more rested and go out and do more and be more adventurous, etc. Those are the kinds of things.
Yeah, a lot of the behaviors that we engage in the summertime, we tend to get more dehydrated. Obviously, like sitting outside, but also consuming, various alcoholic beverages. Making sure to drink water. You are more likely to get dehydrated with the same cup of coffee, right, that you would in the winter months, because we're more dehydrated. Our body is absorbing more of that. So we need to be able to moisturize our skin, our brain is 75% water, right? So it's very important to make sure that you're consuming water on its own.
Yes. And exercise. So Soda talked a little bit earlier about exercise and really looking at the timing of exercise and ensuring that it's not too late. Some of you might go dancing at night. Continue to do that. We definitely say absolutely do the things that make you feel good and support your well-being overall. What we're just saying is, when it comes to exercise, you want to plan it in a way, especially if it's more of the intensity, right? The intensity of it. You want to plan it in a way where it's not so close to bedtime. And also keep in mind too, that it's easy in the summertime to be a little bit more lethargic. It is, because of the heat, it is a little easier to lay around. Okay, I'm going to lay around on the beach, and the heat kind of makes you feel more lethargic in a lot of cases. So because of that, it is important to be more aware of, all right, when can I take, let's say I don't have to maybe jog or run, but when can I take a nice long meditative or reflective walk, whether it's with myself or with friends? Where can I exercise in a cooler environment, right? So not in the heat. and again, hydrating. So the activity level should remain, because it is important not to be sedentary in order to keep the body healthy for sleep. You definitely want to live a lifestyle where you're moving, right? And where things are circulating. But you want to just evaluate the timing of it, the intensity of it throughout the summertime, so that your body temperature remains at a point where it is supportive of you and not overheating. And at the same time, you're very aware of the time of day. So intensity, time of day, and things like that.
Yeah. And if you're someone who ends up dancing at night, which I'm sure that's you, Mark, the cool down, a lot of times people don't think about, what can you do after that physical activity to kind of relax your body, right? Whether it be stretching or restorative yoga or meditation or breathing exercises. It's really about the fact that, you're pumping up adrenaline in your body, right? So we want to bring those kind of cortisol levels down, and we want to get into a space where we're ready to embrace the night.
Exactly. Always a cool down. And that's an essential part of a really healthy exercise routine, where you have a warm up, you have your exercise, you have a cool down. And that actually brings me to another point, Soda, which is really great to now put in here, which is about transitioning. Because often what happens, not even in the summer, just all around, is that people get into the habit of jumping up out of bed with an alarm. So there's no transition between waking up and starting your day. And at nighttime, it's the same thing. It's like they're either out dancing late or watching TV late, or something else. And it's like, okay, lights off, I'm going to bed. And then there's no transition between the last activity into the bedtime. And transitioning, whether you're waking up or whether you're going to bed, is vital for a number of reasons. It's setting the tone and preparing you physically, mentally, but also acclimating you to the environment you're preparing to be in. Right? Whether you're jump starting your day and want to get up with energy, or whether you're transitioning for the night. So that transitioning aspect is important.
No, absolutely. That's where, I'm not a big fan of necessarily having a whole huge elongated like bedtime routine, because we need different types of self-care in our life at different times. But definitely having, your environment, I say set your environment up for success, where you had mentioned about the night light, right? So looking at night lights in your home, changing that out to amber lighting, your bedside light, having that amber lighting, because then when you walk into that sleep sanctuary, right, it's already set up for success. And if you're coming from an outdoor light concert, right, all these different things, you get into your bedroom, it kind of starts to set off that switch where it's okay, it's time to relax, and you kind of can give yourself that time to unwind. So part of that is just making sure that you've set up your environment correctly, so you don't have to think about it once you do go, start to make that transition into sleep.
Exactly. And what that can look like, great example about coming home from a concert. So when you come home, instead of turning those bright lights on full blast, halfway, or instead of all the lights, one or two lights, that already is preparing the transition. So like Soda was saying, we're not suggesting you add a half hour, an hour of a routine. It's just being really aware of, oh, what are the things that I normally do in the day that at night might not be such a good idea, because I do want to take things down a little bit more in the energy and preparing for that environment. So not as many lights on. Don't blast that TV on, right? Maybe you just go and you start to turn the TV on, check something in. Perhaps tonight you don't even turn the TV on, for example. Keep things a little bit more quiet. Or just if you need something, which is totally fine. Let's say that the quiet is not your vibe right now and you just don't want to be with full quiet, then put on some music that is preparing you for that environment, so that music can also help and shift the feeling of you transitioning to get to bedtime, right? And it's not like something that's going to be jarring or overstimulating at night. You don't want to be pumping house music, rock and roll late at night, especially after the concert. It's like, oh, now let's transition to something where, again, if you walk into a spa, it's like, oh, okay, I'm ready to unwind and relax. And in the morning, so if you normally are getting up in the morning with an alarm clock, which most people do, and you're going to be starting your day just like jolting up, let's say around 7 a.m., set your alarm 10 or 15 minutes earlier, so that in that window of time, you can lay in bed for 2 to 3 minutes. Maybe you have a journal where you start to envision how you want to start your day. Maybe you have a calm app or do a breathing exercise. You can decide, what works best for you. But taking 10, 15 minutes to settle into the day without just, jumping out of the bed, getting into the shower, being very aware of your surroundings, yourself, and you claiming your day. Basically, that's what you're doing. I'm going to claim my day instead of the day running me and I'm going, flying by the seat of the pants. I'm going to claim my day. And so in order to wake up 10, 15 minutes earlier, it's important then at night to be well rested, because if you're not, that alarm will go off a little earlier, be like, oh, I can sleep a little longer, because you're tired and your body wants to sleep longer. So being cognizant again of the whole picture and understanding how can I shift and shape things in my lifestyle so that, again, they can work for my benefit.
And just, I guess, to wrap up the last point, that you brought up a great point about technology. If you are still using something like an alarm clock in the morning, I love to recommend, there's a lot of free applications, whether you're an Android or an Apple user, where they have alarm clocks where it's based on a 15 or 30-minute window. And it's really important to be aware of like what your sleep patterns look like so that you're waking up during the right stage of sleep. Like, for instance, we were out with the fireworks, but my daughter started camp this morning. So I knew she was going to get less sleep. But because of my background and because of, using an application, I was able to determine when we woke up. So there's no dragging this morning. We all have good energy. We have more events that are going on tonight. We're getting less sleep than what we did, right? But we made sure that it was good quality sleep and that we're waking up when we need to, so that we're set with our energy for during the day. So it's really important, if you've never taken a look at your sleep patterns, figuring out not just like what your sleep opportunity is. So that's the time that you can be in bed, right, to sleep, but when you can actually carve out that time and get good quality sleep within a certain amount of time. And then that hydration piece is going to be really important. First thing when you wake up, room temperature, a cup of water. Sleep is a very dehydrating event. So again, we're out, we're exposed, we're up late, we're drinking more, we're partaking all these different activities, we're a lot more physical. So making sure that that hydration is the very first thing you do when you wake up during the summer months. Your body will thank you for it.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, Soda. I know we shared a lot of information today because we just wanted to present things from many different angles so that you can consider many different things you may not have when it comes to summer insomnia and your sleep environment during the summer months. However, because we did share a lot of information, once again, it's important to allow yourself some time to absorb the information, but then really ask yourself, like I had shared earlier, intuitively ask yourself, what is it that I feel most in my lifestyle is interfering with my sleep, or most in my environment? And just, that answer, if you just allow for that answer, it will start to make itself very clear. And then this way you're not overwhelming yourself, because one of the things that we're adamant about in our programs and in the information that Soda and I share is to ensure that what we're trying to do is not to fill you up with so much information that you become overwhelmed and more fearful and have now more things to fear or stress out about. It's the opposite. We're providing the information and education so you can be aware of things you weren't of before, like, oh, that's a good point. Oh yeah, I didn't realize that. However, then you take a step back. You're like, okay, what is it in my life that tends to be the most interfering? So then you're working from the inside out. You're taking all the information we provided you, but then you're working from the inside out to figure out what is it, and take it one step at a time. So you don't have to create 100 changes all in one night. It's, oh, you know what? I'm going to commit myself to improving my hydration. That's going to be my focal point, because that's kind of the biggest thing for me right now. Or, you know what? At nighttime, wow, I do tend to keep those bright lights on really late. I don't dim them at all. And I'm on that, my iPhone. So maybe I'll get some, blue light glasses, right? Blocker glasses. Maybe I'll start dimming lights. So again, just notice what are the things that are interfering most. Pick one thing, start with one thing, commit yourself to it. And then little by little, you'll start to see that over time, you're going to begin making those healthier choices and changes and living more of a lifestyle that is in balance and supportive of you and your sleep. All right. Thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to joining you next month, the first Tuesday in August, for our next sleep topic. If there are any topics, questions you'd like to discuss, please type them below in the comment boxes. Soda and I do read them, or you can email us as well. And we look forward to sharing more. Thank you. Visit us at parentinghealthinstitute.com. Startwithsleep.com if you're interested in becoming an integrative adult sleep coach. Again, visit parentinghealthinstitute.com. If you like this, please like and share so that more people can have this information. And if you also want to be notified, please subscribe to our channel so you can be notified of more videos. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care.